Welcome to the Boomer Buzz, the show that focuses on issues of interest to the 60 and over crowd, both here on Long Island and across the country. Listen as experts keep you informed about the latest health solutions, financial options, and lifestyle choices, both for senior citizens and their families. Now, here are the hosts of the Boomer Buzz, Dr. Lamar Stanford and Patricia Stanford, corporate wellness consultant, on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome to the Boomer Buzz, where each week we'll give you the buzz on how to stay healthy, wealthy, and wise after the age of 60.
Today, we're speaking with Erin Bienkowski, who is a community educator at the Alzheimer's Association.
Welcome to the show, Erin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're delighted to have you with us today so that we can learn more about this very important topic. So I've read some articles that are calling Alzheimer's disease an epidemic in America. In your opinion, is that the case?
Absolutely. Unfortunately. The numbers are on the rise based on the statistics that we gather and so forth. The Alzheimer's Association every year puts out the most recent statistics in terms of the impact of the disease and the prevalence and so forth. And right now it is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States and ultimately takes more lives than prostate cancer and breast cancer combined, which when I say that fact, when I'm in the community, people's eyes widen, because it really, we hear so much about other diseases, rightfully so, and while we're having a lot of success with treating other diseases, heart disease and things like that, we've, to a certain extent, we've gotten a handle on some of those other things, and we're seeing deaths from those diseases kind of on the decline, but with Alzheimer's, where it continues to rise. So unfortunately, that is the case.
Okay, do we know how that happened? How have we gotten to this point? Do you have any ideas about that? Or?
Well, I think it could be a combination of just more of an awareness of, people getting to the doctor and getting assessments and getting diagnosed, which is a good thing, But then we also, there's so much that they don't really know about the disease itself. And a lot of research is really focusing on understanding, what is the actual cause? What is, they still don't know. They're still trying to understand the disease and the cause of it and its contribution, what's bringing it on. So there's so many unknowns, and that's where a lot of the research is still focusing, just understanding what the heck is really going on,
Now, Erin, can you help me? What's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia, or are they just different words for the same thing?
A great question, and I get that a lot in the community. Dementia in and of itself is a general term. It's a broad term, I should say. Dementia means there's cognitive decline, so there's changes in thinking, in memory, in judgment, personality changes. It encompasses, all of those things. Dementia is caused by a specific disease or a number of diseases. You can have more than one disease at once that causes dementia. So Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia. So when you picture an umbrella, we say dementia is the umbrella term. So the top of the umbrella itself is the word dementia, and then underneath it would be all the different diseases that cause that dementia. About 60 to 80% of dementia is caused by Alzheimer's disease. So does that clarify? There's more than one disease that causes dementia, though. It's not the only. Alzheimer's is not the only cause of dementia. It just happens to be the most common cause of dementia.
I had a friend here, personal experience. I went to Arizona a couple of months ago, and a friend that I'd known for 30 years, hadn't seen him for the last 2 years I came in. He didn't even recognize me. So sad. His wife said, "Do you remember Lamar?" And he says, "Isn't your name George?" He could tell he was searching, and there was nothing there. And it's just, this came on rather quickly. Are there early signs of Alzheimer's and dementia? Like you said, dementia comes before Alzheimer's, doesn't it?
Well, No, I mean the dementia is the changes in the thinking and the memory and the behavior. So it's not that one is coming before the other. It's just what's causing the dementia. Is it caused by Alzheimer's disease? Is it a vascular dementia, which is dementia caused by damage to the blood vessels in the brain, which is usually brought on by a series of mini strokes and things along those lines. So, you have, is the dementia caused by Alzheimer's disease? Is it caused by another disease? Sometimes people with Parkinson's, there's a dementia component to Parkinson's. So is their dementia caused by their Parkinson's disease? It's really what's causing the dementia, not one coming before the other. But everybody progresses with Alzheimer's in particular. Everybody progresses differently. Typically, they say it is a fatal disease, unfortunately. We don't have any way to cure or slow down or prevent it at this point in time. The medications that we use are really just treating some of the symptoms for a period of time, but it's not slowing anything down at this point. That's why research is so important. But they say typically the average length of time that somebody lives beyond a diagnosis can be anywhere from 4 to 8 years. However, this is with Alzheimer's disease. However, somebody can live 20 years with Alzheimer's disease. So there's such a huge discrepancy, in terms of how quickly people progress. It could be due to other, coexisting health conditions, depending on the individual. So there's no, we say if you meet one person with Alzheimer's, you've only met one person, because they progress differently, from person to person. It may present a little bit differently in terms of the changes that we might see. I speak with some people when I'm in the community, and they say, my grandmother had dementia, or Alzheimer's rather, and she was always the sweetest thing. I would go visit her, and she would give me a big hug, but she would say, "Now, who are you again?" Which is sweet. She wasn't upset or bothered, but she just didn't know who she was. And then I have another person say, well, my grandmother, grandfather, whomever, had Alzheimer's, and they were sweet, and then they became very aggressive and angry, and their personality completely changed. So the same disease can look very different in different people, and that's part of why it's so challenging,
Listen, we have to just do a station ID right at the moment. You're listening to the Boomer Buzz on the voice of NASA Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Dr. Lamar Stanford, along with my wife, Patricia Stanford, corporate wellness consultant. And our guest today is I guess you're not a doctor, are you, Erin?
No, I'm not. I don't have any medical, experience. Okay. I'm a teacher.
It's Erin. I'm sorry. Our guest is Erin Bienkowski of the Alzheimer's Association. So, just if I can do a follow-up question here. Sure. We've read in some reliable, I don't know if it's reliable or not, but we've read in some literature the incidence of Alzheimer's and dementia in the Indian subcontinent is negligible in comparison with our own population here in the United States. There are hypotheses that their diet of turmeric and other spicy additives reduces the incidence of Alzheimer's and dementia. Is there anything to this stuff? It's anecdotal, I think.
Right. So I can't speak specifically to that, in terms of the numbers in that specific region. But what I will tell you, and this is what the research is finding, and what part of what we promote at the Alzheimer's Association, is that lifestyle, which includes a healthy diet, can, they're thinking, the researchers are thinking, it can significantly reduce one's risk of cognitive decline as they age. One of those components, like I said, is diet. So, if they're attributing the lower rates in that area of the world to the diet that they're eating,
specifically turmeric and other spicy additives, they think. So you haven't heard of anything?
That could be the case. I haven't heard of anything specific to turmeric, but that does not mean that that's not valid. Okay. I know that the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet are diets that have been being studied, and they are promoting those as being healthy brain diets, along with other, good for cardiovascular health, good for regulating diabetes. It also comes to pass that you're also taking care of your brain when you're taking care of those other diseases and lowering your risks for developing those other diseases.
Now,
diet is a big thing.
I've personally taken a subscription to Lumosity. It's a website that gives you cognitive brain-solving problems, and they're kind of fun. Have you heard of that site?
I have heard of that site, Luminosity.
Is that a positive thing to keep your brain active? Do you think that's part of the prevention thing, is to keep that cognitive thing?
It's a key component. So they say that it's a four-pronged approach. So you have your cardiovascular and your exercise, so you want to get your blood pumping to your brain, because your blood is what feeds your brain. It's what carries the oxygen and the nutrients. So you want that exercise. That's one piece. Then you want the diet. So as of right now, they're studying a lot Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. So you have that component. The third component is cognitive stimulation. So luminosity, brain games, puzzles, just anything that challenges your brain, that gets you thinking in new ways. It doesn't have to be luminosity, but that certainly is a valid option. You want to use it or lose it. You want to keep your mind stimulated. It is a component. And then the fourth component is social stimulation. So being socially active, staying engaged, staying connected. If you can take that component and combine it with some of the other things, saying joining an exercise group, so you have social interaction and exercise, even better. But those really are the four components that the research is showing can really help people lower their risks of developing cognitive decline, along with other diseases. So it's a win-win.
Okay, Erin, can I just ask you, let's go over those points again. Number one was diet. Number two was physical exercise.
Correct.
Number three was cognitive or kind of brain stimulation.
Yes.
And number four was social, right? Keeping connected with people around you and keeping the brain going. Is that a good summary?
That's it. You got it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Now, evaluation, how do we tell when this is creeping in? Do you get headaches? What are the little symptoms that Pat should be watching out for me and I should be watching out for her?
Oh, no.
Well, we another program that we do, and that's one of the things I do as a community educator, is we have a program that says the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's disease. And we say that there are 10 things that we want to be on the lookout for. I want to preface that by saying, just because somebody might be showing one or a combination of these signs does not mean in and of itself that they have Alzheimer's disease. There are other health conditions that can present with some changes in memory and thinking and judgment that's not Alzheimer's disease. And that's why it's so important, and that's why we really stress to people to get, their regular annual medical checkups. And if you notice any signs, get to a doctor and get a thorough evaluation, because we want to find out exactly what's going on. It could be a medication interaction. There could be a thyroid issue, which you might not think would cause, issues with cognition, but it can be. And you get somebody on a medication for thyroid and then their mind clears up, or there could be a vitamin deficiency, or a number of different things. So I want to preface anything that I'm going to say with it. Just because you see something in yourself or somebody doesn't mean they have Alzheimer's disease. So don't be frightened and then just say, well, I don't want to go to the doctor because, there's no cure and I'm too afraid. We really want people to get evaluated. But some of the things that we might want to take another look at would be, number one, certainly memory. So I always say, if we start to say, I say mom, I use that frame of reference because my mother had dementia, so I always go to mom. It doesn't have to be mom, though. But I say, mom was really, I'm having a conversation with mom, and, she keeps asking me 3 or 4 times, in the conversation the same questions over and over again. And we're still in the conversation, and she's not remembering that I answered that question, Not like, well, I know, there's a party next week. When is the party again? 2:00 on Friday. Okay, and then maybe the next day. When is that party again? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about maybe asking the same question repeatedly while you're still in the midst of the conversation. Okay, that would be something that I would think about.
Now, Erin, can we just interrupt? We need to take a station break at just the present time. We can just hold that thought.
But hold the thought. Yeah, we want to hear more of that.
I'll remember.
Okay. This is a good time to take a break. I'm Patricia Stanford, corporate wellness consultant, along with my husband, Dr. Lamar Stanford, and our guest today is Erin Bienkowski from the Alzheimer's Association. You are listening to the Boomer Buzz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
please be done.
Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Boomer Buzz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Dr. Lamar Stanford, and
I'm Patricia Stanford.
And our guest today is Erin Bienkowski from the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay, so take it away, Erin. You were giving us signs, and you were up to number 2, I think.
Right. So, and if somebody starts to show some challenges in maybe planning or problem solving, managing a checkbook, keeping track of paying the bills, anything that requires, keeping track of things. Also, trouble completing familiar tasks. When you think about how much we use our memory in ways that we don't even have to think about anymore. When you think about the steps that's involved in a simple task, whether it's, completing a load of laundry or washing the dishes or cleaning the kitchen. If we go to visit mom, again, I go back to mom because that was my personal circumstance with my mother having dementia. Mom's house she always kept a neat house and everything was always in orderly fashion. And then I go start to visit mom and I say, the dishes are piling up in the sink, or laundry's not getting done, or things are disheveled, or that's out of character. It could be a memory issue. It could be something going on that she's having trouble remembering how to do it or completing it. So that's something that we want to be on the lookout for. Confusion with time or place. People start to lose track of the seasons or the year, having trouble remembering what year it is or who the president is, or certainly if you go to a store and then not remembering sometimes how to get home, that can happen. That would definitely be something that would be a big alarm in my mind.
But Erin, wouldn't that be kind of dementia? Or is that Alzheimer's? Or how do you tell the difference between that dementia and Alzheimer's? Again, I'm a little confused.
It's okay. And this is a very common confusion. So dementia in and of itself, Alzheimer's is a disease that causes dementia. So yes, it is. You're correct. If somebody has Alzheimer's disease, you're not incorrect by referring to it as dementia. They do have dementia. It's just caused by the disease of Alzheimer's. I'm just, kind of changing the wording around a little bit to emphasize the point. So it's not incorrect to say it's dementia. It is dementia. We always say, okay, what's causing the dementia? Is it caused by Alzheimer's disease? Is it caused by vascular dementia? Is it caused by Parkinson's disease? There's another dementia called, dementia with Lewy bodies. So the underlying disease is different, but the end result is still dementia.
So dementia is the symptom.
Correct.
Okay.
Dementia is the collection of symptoms. Mm-hmm. Right.
And is Alzheimer's actually that we hear about the tangling of the brain cells or something in the cortex? Is that truly Alzheimer's? Is that truly Alzheimer's? That's not dementia. That's truly an Alzheimer's disease.
That's right. That's associated specifically with Alzheimer's disease, as far as they know now, with research and so forth. When you hear about the plaques and tangles, that's basically they're referring to a buildup of proteins that kind of gunk up the brain neurons and the cells and so forth. Just, in layman's terms, it's proteins that are you hear plaques and tangles, it's kind of getting in the way of the brain neurons and things doing what it's supposed to do. The brain tells us to do everything in our body, whether we realize it or not. So it's the brain that controls our thinking, our memories, our emotions. It also tells our heart to beat. It tells us how to swallow. It directs the function of everything. So the plaques and tangles is one of the characteristics of associated with Alzheimer's disease specifically. Yes.
Okay. So I know that you're a community educator. One of my friends is caring for her mother who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. What resources does the Alzheimer's Association have in place for caregivers, or do you have those?
We do. Oh, we absolutely do. Yes, we. The thing I like to start off with and make sure everybody really knows about is our 800 number, because it is a source of information and even support. But it could also be used in a crisis situation. So the number itself is 800-272-3900. And, people can call that number and they can find out everything that we do. Quickly, we have support groups for caregivers. So we have emotional support. We have social workers and so forth that bring people together so that they can really not feel like they're doing this alone. It's really, really important to create a network and a team surrounding as caregivers, because it's very it's not an easy road. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, especially if you're taking care of people at home, which we find statistically that 70% of the population who have Alzheimer's still lives at home.
Okay.
So we have about 5.7 million people here in the United States with Alzheimer's. That's the latest statistic. So we figure close to 70% of those people are living at home. And for those people, we have over 16 million unpaid caregivers. So when I say unpaid caregivers, that's us. That's the
family
husbands
members
and the wives and the children, and it affects people across all generations. It's not just the elderly. We've got the sandwich generation caregiver, where they're raising children and taking care of a parent, and they're still working, and they need support. They need emotional connection. So we have support groups. We do educational programs free in the community, because it's so important for people to really understand what Alzheimer's is, what dementia is. How do you respond to somebody with Alzheimer's disease, when they're thinking possibly that they have to go to work at 2:00 in the morning. And I use that example because that's what a caregiver said to me that's how she utilized our 800 number. So our 800 number can connect you to resources, but it can very much be a crisis hotline. And I had a woman tell me that, I'm a caregiver to my mom. It's just the two of us at home. And it was middle of the night, and mom, who was in her 80s, was trying to get dressed because she thought she had to go to work. And obviously that's not the case, but that's what Alzheimer's does. And she said, the harder I tried to convince mom that she didn't have to go to work and to please put your clothes back on, mom was getting angry and upset. She started to get aggressive. She said, I remembered that I had this phone number to call. I called the phone number in the middle of the night, and they spoke to me. They told me what to say to Mom. They got on the phone and they spoke to Mom. They helped me diffuse the situation. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have this phone number.
Okay.
Erin, we have to take a break.
We're going to take a break?
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, station identification. You're listening to the Boomer Buzz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, and our guest today, Erin Bienkowski, is talking about health issues, specifically Alzheimer's. She's from the Alzheimer's Association.
Yep.
Now, Erin, can I just maybe ask, are there any doctors? It seems to me there aren't any doctors that specialize in Alzheimer's diagnosis and care. Is it a generic thing? You just walk in and say, gee, my memory's not very good, I'm kind of forgetting things. Then he gives you a check. Or is there some specialty that you could go to that this guy really knows what he's talking about with Alzheimer's?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, you can certainly say you can start with your primary care doctor if this is the doctor that you trust and you have a good relationship with. Cognitive assessment is really a part of the annual wellness visit that's covered by Medicare. Okay. So we want people to realize that, when you're going for your annual checkup, certainly if you're experiencing some difficulties or you have some concerns, you would want to mention that. But, even if you're not, it's always good to get a baseline. So you can start with your primary care doctor. There's nothing wrong with that. And then ideally, if they should find, after they do what they call a mini cognitive assessment, a mini cog, they feel that there are additional testing is warranted, or they might refer out to a specialist from there. It could be, a geriatrician maybe that really specializes in diseases in the senior population. It could be a neuropsychologist. It could be a neurologist. There are other specialists that focus more primarily on dementia, Alzheimer's disease and diseases that cause dementia. So, primary care doctor is not a bad place to start, though.
Okay.
It's definitely an option.
Now, I hate to talk about kind of medical details, but how does Alzheimer's end your life? You said it's the sixth leading cause of death. Is it the brain the brain just shuts down, or do those tangles and things just overpower the brain and you just stop everything? How does that happen?
Yeah, it just the body stops functioning. The people stop eating, the brain, the heart stops beating. I mean, it literally shuts the body down in end stages. So, I mean, it's not unusual for other people to pass, we say, indirectly from Alzheimer's disease. So, an example might be somebody who is, having trouble swallowing while they're eating, which is a result of the Alzheimer's disease, okay? So they're having issues with swallowing, and they maybe ingest or inhale some fluid or some food that then turns into pneumonia. Oh, okay. And then they pass from the pneumonia. That's indirectly caused by the Alzheimer's, but then if one of those events don't transpire, then ultimately they will pass from Alzheimer's because the body just stops functioning and it shuts down.
Now, for our audience, I'd just like to reiterate that number that they can contact, 1-800-272-3900. That's the Alzheimer's Association, and is this a 24-hour phone number?
This is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I always tell people, if you call that phone number, that number will lead you to everything else. So I know I started to talk about what we do at the Alzheimer's Association. We have support groups, we do educational programs, we have some early stage engagement programs for people themselves with the diagnosis in the early stages, some type of social gatherings where we connect people with other people who are in the same boat and have the same diagnosis. So, we have social workers that people can make appointments with, either on the phone or in person, to help them maybe come up with a plan. What we find is people, unfortunately, they're with their doctor, they get the diagnosis, they say, okay, it is Alzheimer's, here's a prescription to to try and come back in 6 months for an evaluation, and people leave the doctor and they say, well, now what?
Wow.
What do I do now? What does that mean? What's going to happen?
Yeah, listen,
we want people to know.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We're on a bit of a time schedule here, but We want to thank you, Erin, for
so much.
Yes, you're a community educator with the Alzheimer's Association. We want to thank you, really thank you for all this information you've given us today in our audience. So maybe we can have you come back again and talk with us.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
I'm Lamar Stanford, along with my wife, Patricia. This show will be available as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, Spotify, and Spreaker.com. If you have any comments, email them to us anytime at whpc@ncc.edu. Thank you for listening to the Boomer Buzz here on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.